Hello and welcome to another Scratch Saturday by Onshot.net. Today we're looking at perimeters and area in maths by building fences for sheep. The idea of this activity is that you decide how long do you want your fence to be and how wide do you want your fence to be, so the length and width of your fences. Now I put a criteria of less than 20 metres, so let's say we go with a 12 metre by 12 metre fence. What happens is we draw our fence and we see if the sheep can fit inside it. So that's kind of the idea there. We'll try another one, maybe a small one, so a 2 by 2. You see he can't get into the fence. That's the idea, and we have to find out which is the minimum fence size that the sheep can fit into. If I try something like maybe a 10 by 19 fence, surely yes, he's going to fit in there. So that's the idea of that. So let's see how we actually make that game or this activity. We start off, we have three things to look at over here. We have our stage, which is basically a grassy area. It's the best I could do. We have our sheep, who basically has one costume, and a couple of blocks of things here. And then we have this rather strange circular looking sprite, a brown sprite, a dot, with one chunk of code here as well. So I suppose the first thing we'll do is we'll look at what happens when we click on the green flag with the sheep. So when we click on the green flag with the sheep, basically the sheep moves to -153 to -135, somewhere down here. So that's all that happens. We'll come back to this section then after. So when I click the green flag, the sheep is going to move over here. When we actually click the green flag here, lots of stuff happens. We're using drawing tools, so the pen moves up, that means it can't draw, and we clear whatever was on the screen, because obviously if you've done this game once, you need to clear the screen. So we clear all drawings, and we move it to -120, 120, which is just here. We set the width and length to a high figure above 20, because basically to get into this block of code to ask how long do they want your fence, or what wide width do you want your fence, it won't go in unless the numbers are less than 20, so I just set them randomly at 100. And the idea is if you answer these questions higher than 20, it'll keep asking you and asking you and asking you again. So basically once you answer the length of your fence, that will be your length, variable length will be whatever answer that is, and your width will be whatever that answer is. So let's say 2 by 4, that kind of thing. And once we've got the data, we put the pen down, we set the pen colour to the same colour as the sprites, that's that brownie colour. We set the size to 10, so it's the same size as this dot as well, and we point in the direction 0, which is up, north. And what we do then is we repeat two instructions. If you've ever had a Bebot, or you've ever done a logo, this will be very familiar to you. But basically what we're doing is we're moving the length, we move up the length, and basically what I'm saying is by 10 steps. So the length, if we were just doing one step, it wouldn't be enough really. So so this just makes it look better. So about a centimetre is about 10 steps, I'd say. So we move the length up by 10 steps. We turn 90 degrees. We move just the width by 10 steps. Then we turn 90 degrees. Then it repeats. You go again, another length and another width. So we can see that in action. And then we broadcast something called message 1. Now, if you are quick-sighted there, you might have noticed that message 1 was seen with the sheep. When I receive message 1, so it's doing nothing until it receives that message, it goes to its sprite, which is you bring the sheep to sprite 1, so wherever to this area here where it's all started. You point it in the direction of 60 degrees, and then you move them to the center of the shape that's just drawn. So to get the center of a rectangle or a square, the formula basically is the square root of the length by the length plus the width by the width. And what I'm doing is I'm multiplying by 5, that's half to 10. Remember, we were moving 10 steps in, so basically 5 is there instead of is half of 10. So it's that's basically the formula to get into the middle of the shape. And then basically forever you just move the sheep around the fence if he's able to get into it. And basically whenever he touches anything brown, he turns 100 degrees, so he just bounces around the place. So let's have a look and see that in action, just to see what that looks like. We'll start with the sheep. So we press the flag. See, the sheep has moved down, and if I go to the sprite 1 here, that's the pen is up and it's waiting now, and it's gone to this. It's gone here, and basically it's now in this section waiting for my input for length and width. So I'll put an invalid figure, so I'll go for 25. It'll still ask me the width because it waits till here before it decides what my length is. So I'm going to do a right figure. It goes back to asking what my length will be able to be. So I'm going to go with 18, and then I'll go with a width of about 6 and see what happens. So it's going to put the pen down, and then it's going to draw. So it went up. So basically what happened was it went up and turned 90 degrees. It turned 90 degrees into the length and turned 90 degrees into the width. And the sheep, what happened then is it broadcast that message. The sheep went here, received the message. The sheep moved here. It moved 60 degrees, and now it's hanging around that pen. I can imagine that code could be a little bit better because he seems to be stuck in that fence really at the moment. But ultimately, we got him into the pen. He's in a little fence, and basically that's the code. Again, as always, I'm sure you could do a lot better in getting the sheep better in the pen or in his fences. There's probably better code than this here to move into the centre, particularly something to do with the angles as well. I'd imagine you could do a little bit of work on that. But that's the game, I hope, or the activity. Have fun with it, and as always, please make any improvements and share them with us in the comments. As always, as usual, project link is in the description, and look forward to seeing you on another Saturday. Thanks a million.